Hi, this is the voice of Heidie Calero with another economic capsule on the Puerto Rico economy. Don't forget, those of you who like our capsules, to go to YouTube and give us a like in each of those capsules so you keep receiving notifications on this wonderful world of economic analysis for the Puerto Rico economy. Remember last time we spoke about the economic capsule was it really was related to production jobs, and we defined them as jobs in construction, in agriculture and manufacturing. And our last capsule talked about construction jobs and the great need and the great demand for those construction jobs because of Hurricane Maria, as well as the earthquakes in January of 2020, and the need for Puerto Rico to rebuild itself as well as to reconstruct its economy. Today we are going to talk about the second production sector, which is agriculture. And notice here in this graph, in 1940, Puerto Rico had 229,000 jobs in agriculture, and it accounted for 66% of these production jobs that I mentioned before: construction, agriculture, and manufacturing. So enormous. Puerto Rico was an agricultural economy which transformed itself in terms of moving out of agriculture and really moving into manufacturing, as we will see in next week's economic capsule. Interesting thing is, as of 2020, there are only 16,000 jobs in agriculture, and that accounts for 10% of all these production sector jobs that I mentioned before. And it is important to highlight this because these 16,000 jobs, they cannot be just in the traditional agriculture. There is a whole new world out there with new technology, organic niches where Puerto Rico can, with this great weather, once in a while we have a hurricane and some tremors, but other than that, we don't have these brutal winters as in the States or in other parts of the world. Puerto Rico has great temperature throughout the year, so we have a great potential that we are not exploiting. Notice here the contribution of agriculture, which has been negative in terms of its gross domestic product. The green bars are its contribution to the GDP, and the purple line is as a percentage of Puerto Rico's overall gross domestic product. And notice that even though the bars look low in 1950 and even in the 1960s, really it accounted for 18% of Puerto Rico's gross domestic product, which was small at the time. But overall, with the new manufacturing and new economic activity, it grew. To 2019, it contributes $716 million. That's in current prices, and it accounts for only 1% of gross domestic product. So you ask yourself, are we wasting an enormous potential because we are not focusing also on agriculture? Let's look at what farmers are cultivating in Puerto Rico's economy, at least in farmland. And I only have 1973 and 2014 because the Puerto Rico Planning Board has not published any more recent information. So in 1973, the gross farm income accounted for $330 million, of which $59 million were in the traditional crops, i.e., sugar, tobacco, coffee particularly. And in 2014, which are these purple lines, purple bars, we are looking at $26 million. So traditional crops really contributing less. Livestock, back in 1973, it contributed $162 million, almost half of the $330 million that it contributed overall gross farm income in that year. Fruits and vegetables contributed $51 million, and there were no ornamental plants in 1973. That is more of a more recent development. Well, let's look at 2014, $930 million, of which 26 million were in these traditional crops, mostly coffee. And I emphasize this because even for the traditional season to collect coffee, we don't have enough hands to really pick that coffee. And Puerto Rico's coffee is 100% excellent. It's even exported in many parts of the world. So it only contributed 26 million out of 930 million. Livestock, that's milk, eggs, poultry, and some of that cattle, still is almost 50%. That's 400 million. It's 50% of that 930 million. And then fruits and vegetables also has grown to $192 million. And plants, ornamental plants, have become more and are contributing more to gross farm income. Look at all this potential that is being wasted. These are the huge food imports, be it agricultural, that is agriculture, fishing, $682 million. That's fruits directly. And the processed food, that's not include beverages, so it's $3.3 billion. So out of a $3.9 billion that we have in 2019, we are only contributing, in terms of, at least in 2014, only 930 million. So enormous potential there. It is high time that Puerto Rico's economic strategy focuses more on targeting which are the sectors that we want, and agriculture should be one of them. Until next week for another interesting economic capsule. Bye.